Greetings. Now we come to the actual war called by some the Rhodesian Bush War, some the Chimurenga War. In 1975, I was called up and I went for training. I was the third intake of Internal Affairs National Service called IANS, IANS. The training was pretty inadequate. We were trained for 9 weeks. I went there as a Christian, determined to be faithful to the Bible and to God. It wasn't long before we were told that there was a prayer meeting on Friday. And I thought, yeah, man, yeah. We're going to pray. We're going to pray for the country. We're going to pray for us. We're going to pray for the internal affairs guys. It's going to be a great time. Of course, everyone else was swearing, cursing, telling stories about women they went to bed with, times they got drunk, and all that kind of thing. And there I was alone with these these people who were definitely not Christians. But I relished the idea that they were going to go to a prayer meeting. Anyway, we rock up to the prayer meeting, which happened to be held in the bar, and everyone was standing around. Then the training corporal said, "Right, guys, order your drinks." So I thought, this is a funny prayer meeting when you order your drinks. So, nobody told me about the army prayer meeting. So then the corporal comes up to me, knowing that I'm a Christian, and he says, "Blomefield, what are you going to drink?" I said, "Well, I'll have a Coke, sir." "What? You'll have a Coke? We don't have Cokes in the army. We are men. We are men of men. Now, I asked you once more, what are you going to drink?" So I thought, oh well, this is the price of being a Christian. I said, "I am going to have a Coke, sir." And I thought to myself, I won't tell you his colorful language, but he basically said in colorful language, "I am going to beat you up. Have a drink or else." So I thought, well, here it comes. I'm going to get beaten up. So I said, "Look, sir, I'm a Christian, and I don't want to drink, and I cannot drink, and I want to honor God by not drinking." Then he said, "All right, Blomefield, it's all right." He said, "You can have your Coke. Go to the bar and get one." So everyone else, he said, "What are you drinking?" And he would give them the drink. Me, drinking Coke, he said, "Go and order one for yourself." Anyway, that was a small price to pay. So we went through our training, night patrols, doing night patrols, firearms, range practice, drill. I don't know if you can see, but my arm is not straight. It's got a V. So he was always poking me in the ribs with his swagger stick. "Blomefield, straighten your arm. Then jab me in the ribs. So I always came off the parade square with bruised ribs. Anyway, we survived that, and we did compass work, map reading, and we were taught what the Mao doctrine of Mao Zedong, and what coin warfare is, counterinsurgency warfare, classical warfare, all of these things. And it was, the only thing was that we had to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and get everything ready, iron our shoes. Yes, we had to iron our shoes, iron our clothes, put starch in our clothes, and we had to make a box out of a blanket. Can you believe it? Making a square box out of a blanket. And it is possible. But I'm not going to tell you how to do it, because that was a painful memory. Because he always said to me, "Blomefield, what is this?" Then he would say to me, "Blomefield, what do you do with this?" So I said to him, "So why don't you throw it out the window?" So he did that. He just throw my blankets out the window, in the dirt, in the dust, and I'd have to go and retrieve them, dust them off, and try and make my box again, which I was not good at. Other people were pretty good. I mean, it was a pretty good box. So anyway, we got through that. I don't know how we got through it. And then we were sent out to Shamba. Well, I was sent out to Shamba, to a protected village. A protected village was 1,000 to 2,000 people living in an African village with huts made of pole and daga and thatch. And the huts were pretty close to each other, maybe 5 meters from one hut to the other hut. And I'm sure at night the Zanele combatants would just simply climb over the pig mesh fence, visit their girlfriends, visit their friends, and then in the early morning before light they would climb out again and agree to meet people in the fields where they would herd their cattle and plant their crops, harvest their crops. And so it was based on the Malayan model, which did work at the time. But because the people in the protected village were basically sympathetic to the Zanele combatants, it didn't really work. It was just what they call a nothing burger. Nothing about nothing, and nothing worked. And no Zanele were captured, no Zanele were killed. And the people just went into the village at night and came out in the morning. We would sometimes do patrols at night where we would sneak around, listening to people talking in the huts. You know, parents talking to children, mothers talking to fathers, basically spying on them. It was pretty distasteful to me, but you know, we just had to do it. We were told to do it. We did it. We were never attacked. We were never mortared, never subject to rocket fire, never attacked with machine guns, and no landmine was ever laid that I went over. A friend of mine, he went over a landmine, and he was blown off the vehicle. Then he was picked up in another vehicle. He went 1 kilometer down the road. Boom! He hit another vehicle. So they say that war is dangerous, and believe me, war was dangerous. We were outgunned, outarmed. But and imagine this: my militia had a .303 rifle, which you cocked like this. Can you imagine trying to shoot and people armed with AK-47s, which could be put on automatic fire and single shot fire, and they had 30 rounds in one magazine. It was just, I don't know what to say, a disaster. Anyway, from Shamba, I was taken to Yapanda. Yapanda is very close to the border. It was a hot zone. At any time you could be attacked, day or night. And my militia in that particular strong point were pretty unhappy. They were scared, badly trained, badly armed, badly paid. Morale was low. And one day when I had parade, they told me that they were not going to go back to their barracks. It was a mutiny. And a mutiny is very, very serious. It's a jailable offense. It's a crime. So what I did, remember they were armed and they had real bullets in their .303 rifles. If it came to a firefight, well, I was one soldier with 2 magazines. They were 10 or 15 guys, demoralized, angry, disillusioned. And so so what I did, I just simply talked to them. I talked to them for an hour or 2 hours until they were just exhausted and bored, and they just went back to the barracks by themselves. The next day I went on leave, and the army came in, fully loaded, fully cocked weapons, off safe, prepared to kill. Everyone was arrested, and I don't know what happened to them. I'm sure they went on trial, and I'm sure they were jailed. I'm not sure for how long, probably a year. So it was a very, very unsatisfactory situation. But no Zanla came. In a neighboring strong point, I think it was Kotwa, maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong. The Zanla were very badly trained, so they tried to put some mortar bombs inside the strong point. And so, but by mistake, the mortar tube was vertical, 90 degrees vertical. So the mortar bomb went straight up, straight down, and killed the people who were putting bombs down the mortar tube. There was another group. They laid a landmine. They dug up a hole in the road. They put a landmine in. They covered it with soil, and they felt that the hump on top of the landmine was too big, so they started tramping on it with their boots, and somewhere along the line they just tramped too hard, and the landmine went off, killing them. So there were 2 or 3 guys who were basically mincemeat. So they were very badly trained. They would take guys from a school, take all the students from a school across the border. They would be trained. They would not have proper weapons. They had pretend weapons, being a stick. They'd do parade with a stick and then pretend combat using the stick. And when they came into the country, they would be given their weapons, and they'd maybe shoot off maybe 1 magazine from the AK-47, and they would come in and then find soft points to attack. We were very soft, if only they knew. The motto was, if it's army, you run away. If it's police, judge their combat readiness and their aggressiveness. If they're aggressive, run away. If they're not, then you can attack them. Internal affairs, guys, attack those guys every time and kill them. And we were so unready for the war. And our only safety was that the Zanla guys, these boys from the school, were so badly trained, and very often they themselves were scared. They were terrified, and they thought of us maybe as like special forces, SEAL Team 6 kind of people. We were not that. We were so far away from that. Throughout my wartime experience, I was never attacked. I never shot at anybody. Nobody attacked me. I never hit a landmine. I was never mortared. The war was just peace and quiet all the time. I was posted to Motoko. The place I was posted to was an old mine. On the one hill there was the police. On the next door hill there was internal affairs. And so we kind of like, we protected each other. It was quite a nice place actually, and it was the normal stuff, earthworks, and behind the earthworks we had these dwellings. On the roof of the dwellings there would be sandbags to protect them from mortar bombs. But the hill was pretty steep, and if anyone tried to climb up the hill, they would be pretty tired by the time they got to the top. So we were pretty safe there. One time I went on a patrol, and there was maybe about 10 guys with me, and we were about maybe a kilometer away from Strong Point when I heard a helicopter coming in our direction. Then it started circling overhead, and I saw out of the door was this 20mm cannon, and I was pretty nervous. So I told the guys, wave. So they waved, and in a war it's called the fog of war. In a fog of war, literally anything can happen. And when the pilot saw us waving like that, he thought to himself, these guys are Zanla, and they're giving rude signs. So, and he was about to start shooting when he noticed a black Labrador dog with the group. And he said to himself, well, Zanla never have pet dogs. So he looked and looked and looked. Finally, he saw me, a white face. All the other guys were black guys with khaki uniforms. And the uniforms, internal affairs uniforms, was almost like the Zanla uniform. Now, Zanla, usually they were in civilian clothes, but sometimes they came across in khaki uniforms. So when the helicopter pilot saw us, he didn't identify us with internal affairs, but it was Zanla. Anyway, fortunately, he didn't start shooting because we were in an open field. There was no cover, nothing. We would have been gunned down. At least 3 or 4 of us would have been shot dead. That would have been very sad. But he recognized the dog, then he recognized me, then he flew off. There was some police guys. They were traveling towards a police strong point, and they hit a landmine. Fortunately, they were not injured because everything in the Land Rover was designed for the people in the Land Rover to be saved. So they hit this landmine. They were deafened by it, and then the landmine was ambushed. So the Zanla combatants opened fire, and one of the guys was shot through both cheeks of his bum. Anyway, with adrenaline, he didn't feel a thing. And the other guy, I'm not sure how he escaped, but so then the Zanla started shooting at them, and then, as is normal with them, they were shooting in the trees above and shooting into the sky. So these guys were able to get out the vehicle and run for their lives. And then the Zanla guys started chasing them. And so the police guys were running in this line, and then 50 meters away on this side were some of the Zanla guys, and 50 meters on the other side were some of the Zanla guys, so that the police couldn't turn right or left. So they were running straight towards the police camp. And the Zanla was shooting at them, they were shooting at the Zanla. Basically, the Zanla were shooting actually at themselves, trying to shoot the police. And, the police were running as fast as they could. But one thing about these Zanla guys, they could run. They could run fast. And they didn't tire. They didn't say, oh, I'm tired, I want to give up now. No. They were running, and they were running like long distance Olympic runners. I'm serious. These guys could run. Anyway, the cops, they managed to get to their strong point, and they were saved. And then they had to get, the one guy had to go to hospital and get himself stitched up. So, it was, war is dangerous. In war you can die. But as I said, nothing ever happened to me. On another occasion, some army guys there was a military vehicle, personnel carrier. It was going down the road, it hit a landmine. The guys were blown out the vehicle. Some of them were injured, broken arms, things like that, broken legs, broken wrists. Then there was a vehicle following closely behind. And when it saw the vehicle being blown up, it thought maybe there was another mine, so it went off the road. The driver lost control, went into the river. More guys were injured. So for the price of one landmine, 2 police vehicles were badly damaged, and quite a few of the guys were injured. A friend of mine, wherever I went, I never ever hit a mine, never was shot at nobody. But a friend of mine, he went down the road and he hit a landmine. And he was thrown out of the vehicle. He was deafened, bruised. Anyway, he recovered and he got into another vehicle, went down the road, boom, hit another landmine. So you see, war is dangerous. War you can die. War you can get your legs blown off. War you can be blown off your vehicle, land on your head, break your neck, be crippled for life. You can you can be walking through the bush, stand on a landmine, your foot can be blown off. It's very, very dangerous. So finally, I started studying healing in the Bible. To cut a long story short, I expected to be healthy. However, one day I suddenly got sick. And I was so sick that I had to lie in bed. So my men went to Mako to get rations. We called it rats, resupply rations. And they left. They were there was I think it was what they call a rhino or a kudu. It carries men, and it's very, very well protected from ambushes and from landmines. And then there was a Land Rover. So the kudu vehicle missed the landmine, and the Land Rover following behind hit it. And the one guy was completely blown to pieces, and another guy on the back of the Land Rover, the landmine hit the petrol tank, and so the guy on the back was covered with petrol. It set on fire, so he was burned very, very badly. And there was a third guy on the back. He was just blown off the vehicle. He survived with some bruises. The same with the guys in the front. They were okay. So, I was supposed to be on that vehicle. And by the grace of God, I was saved. Hearing the landmine blast, all of a sudden, I felt better. So I got in another vehicle, and we went to the scene of the mine, and there was just mincemeat hanging off the trees, off the leaves. On the ground, I picked up somebody's hand, just a loose hand. It was very gory, and it was pretty scary, pretty traumatic. Yeah, so that was the end of those two guys. We went back, assembled the men, told them. These guys one guy died, the other guy was badly burned. And then that was the end of that. We went back to normal things that you do in a keep. I was there for, I think, about maybe 6 months. 6 weeks in, then some leave, then posted again, 6 weeks in, etc., etc., etc. And also at Mako, there was another incident where some fresh Zanla guys, they wrote a letter to the police, to the army, and they said, we want to have a fight with you. We're going to meet you under such and such, by such and such river, by such and such baobab tree. And they did that occasionally. And it always ended up very badly for them, because the RLI went there when it was dark and ambushed the site. And then these guys came along to the baobab tree, and then a helicopter flew overhead. The army opened fire, started killing them. They started running out from under the baobab tree, and then the helicopter would shoot them with 20mm explosive bullets. And then they'd run back under the baobab tree, and then the army would advance, kill more, until there was nobody left. Everyone was killed. One of the guys on another firefight, he was wounded in the leg. It went through his calf, through and through, and he was not able to run anymore. And one of the guys was killed by the helicopter, 20mm explosive round in his head. A third of his skull was blown away, a third of his brains were blown away. And so when you looked into the brain case, it was just half empty. It was very gory, and I'm sure that guy was recruited to join the Salute Scouts. So he must have changed sides. So that was Mako. It was full of action, but not my action, but other people's actions. I was posted to Chaka. Chaka was quite close to Harare, or Salisbury as it was then called. And it was pretty hot. There was a lot of Zanla in that area. When I arrived at the Chaka strong point, the parade ground was full of mortar bomb holes, and the water tank was riddled with holes. And then I was there for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month. One day when I was reading in the Bible in Psalm 91, it says, 1,000 will die at your right hand, 10,000 in your left hand. It will not come near you. And just after that, a couple of days after that, I checked the guard duty, and the guard was asleep. And so I took his rifle back to my barracks, and he woke up, and then he went to his friends, and he said to his friends, "Okay, you're joking now. Give me back my rifle." And they said, "No, we're not joking. It must have been Blomefield. He must have taken your rifle." He came to see me, and I said, "Look, this is a very, very serious offense. You're supposed to be looking after us. You're supposed to be on guard duty, and you're asleep. Anybody can come, cut through the fence, and kill us all." He said, "No, he was possessed by an evil spirit. He couldn't help it." So I said, "Okay, tomorrow morning we're going to deal with it." I said, "But here's your weapon. Go back to duty, your guard duty." He completed his guard duty. And in the morning he came to see me. And in the morning I conducted an exorcism. And he was freed from that evil spirit. Another night, I went to check the guards. There was no guard on duty. I went to the barracks. "Where's this guy?" They said, "No, he's not here. He must be on duty." I said, "No, he's not on duty." Apparently what happened is the guy simply left his guard duty, cut through the fence, and joined the Zanda. So that's not a good sign in a war, when your militia cross the lines and join the enemy. So what I did is I sent up a rocket, an Icarus rocket. So when you shoot up this rocket, it goes shoom, high up in the sky. Then there's a bright light on a parachute, a magnesium flare on a parachute, and slowly it comes down. But because I was not well trained, I forgot to look at the wind direction. So I had slanted the rocket away from the keep. So it went there, and then the wind blew it over the keep. So basically, the Zanla, if they were there, the Zanla would have been in darkness, and we would have been brightly lit, just because of this lack of training. So I sent up another rocket. This time, it should have been where we suppose the Zanla were, and there's nobody there. So obviously this guy ran off, joined his friends, and went into the bush. Fortunately, they didn't attack us. Then a couple of days after that, I was going to Chaka Business Center, and on the road we saw two dead bodies. And so we were trained not to park a car in a killing zone. So I thought maybe those bodies were there, so we'd stop by them and then they'd ambush us, etc. So I went some distance down the road, and then I got out of the vehicle, and with my rifle fully cocked, loaded, and off safe, we started back towards those bodies. And it was Zanla combatants that had been killed by Fumarevanu, which was Muzare was militia. So they had put the bodies on the road so that they could be identified. So we radioed in, and then Special Branch came, took them, and there were no weapons with them. So I took fingerprints and identified them, and that was the end of that. When I left that place, then there was another guy who took over, and he went to a store nearby. When he was in the store, Zanla arrived, and they started shooting at his men. He had to run out of the store. He had a Bren gun, and he ran out of the store, started shooting back at the Zanla guys, and there was an intense firefight. It was so intense that the front sight of his Bren gun was shot off. Anyway, fortunately he survived. Probably all the Zanla survived as well, and he was able to get back to the keep safe and sound. But it was very dangerous, very, very dangerous. From there, I had some leave, and then I went to Arcturus. There was a farm there. I owed my father some money, so I became what's called a bright light. In other words, a civilian security guard. And this farming family had been attacked. And you know, the father he was a philosopher. He wasn't your special forces guy. He was a nerd, he was a philosopher, and he was a farmer. And he was a very kind and gentle guy. And so he was attacked, and his wife, as he finished the magazine, shot off the magazine, his wife would hand him a magazine that she loaded. While he was firing at them, she was loading another magazine, etc. And his daughter had a complete nervous breakdown. So he had to move back into town, and I was hired to look after the farm. I was on my own, so I got some magnesium flares and I put them on the fence, and then I looked at where Zana would ambush me. I cut, so the trees were basically the branches of the trees were scraping the ground. So I cut them up to head height, so that no one could be hidden under these trees. And then there was a pile of gravel outside the back gate. Every day when I came to open up for the maid, I would first of all check that there was no Zanala hiding behind the pile of gravel there. And so I was wide awake, fully armed, fully ready. At night when I watched TV, then I'd have all my weapons in front of me, a 303 rifle, an FN rifle, a pistol, an Uzi, an Israeli Uzi 9mm machine gun. I was fully armed, fully ready. And one night I heard so the sound was so close that I thought that they were attacking me. And then I realized no bullets were hitting the house. No windows were being shattered from gunfire. And then I concluded it was a neighboring farm. And in this neighboring farm there was some 70-year-old couple. And they were doing farming there, and they were judged to be soft targets. So these Zanla guys, they aimed a rocket at the house, but it hit some branches before the house. You know, they were badly trained as well. So it hit some branches before the house. It exploded. So the farmhouse was not harmed. But then they wrecked the whole farmhouse with machine gun fire, AK-47 fire. But very, very quickly after they opened up on this farmhouse, I went outside the house. I put my FN rifle on fully automatic, and there was one tracer, then there was 3 or 4 rounds, and then another tracer, 3 or 4 rounds, etc. And what I did is I held the rifle like that, and I shot over a copy nearby, and the tracer went over the next door neighbor farmhouse. And the Zana saw this, and they thought it was the Arcturus commando coming for them. So very, very quickly after opening up, they ran away so they could live another day. And so they stopped firing. And then 20 minutes later, the Arcturus commando arrived. And then the people in the house said that the Zanla fired, and then after a very, very short time, they took off. And then they were on the radio saying what was happening. And I said, well, I fired over the head of the copy towards the farmhouse. And then the firing stopped. So they must have got a fright. And so the commando arrived, and everyone had gone. So everyone realized that it was my gunfire that saved the lives of these farmers, these geriatric farmers. So I met them that next Saturday at Arcturus Club, and they were Garamanzi Club, and they were very, very grateful, and people were patting me on the back. Well done, well done, well done. You know, and so I had my 15 minutes of fame. The guy who took over from me lasted 2 weeks. he was not careful to check behind the gravel. There was a pile of gravel there. He didn't check behind it. Then when he came to the gate and he was unlocking the gate, they stood up and they just shot him to death. So that was very, very, very sad. Then my next posting was in the Chinnamora. Next to the strong point, there was a very big dwala, a huge rock called a dwala, a mountain of rock. And one day I heard a Lynx aircraft coming over, and it shot rockets at this copy, this dwala, and then it had some machine guns. It shot 20mm machine gun at the dwala, and then very soon after that, a big aircraft flew over a Dakota, and out of the side door spilled parachutists. It was maybe 20, 25 guys. They came down in parachutes. It was very low, so it was maybe 700 meters, 800 meters. So as soon as they exited the aircraft, the parachutes opened and they came on the ground, and then they surrounded this dwala and began moving up the dwala. And there was 15 guerrillas, and they shot 13 dead and captured. And one was wounded, and he was found in a hospital and arrested, and one guy escaped. So it was like watching football. I mean, we watched everything from about 500 meters away. And then afterwards I saw there was a black line going up this dwala, and I realized that women had been going up that path every day, feeding the combatants. And here we were, ignorance is bliss. We were there and completely fast asleep, not knowing that these Zanla were looking at us every day and choosing when they were going to attack us and kill us. Then, not long after that, one morning I heard the same thing. And then silence. And then I knew there'd been an ambush. So we got in the vehicle, got about 5 guys with me, because I knew that the combatants would run away. Because that was the style of war was attack and run, and keep yourself alive for another attack. So I knew they'd be gone. So we arrived, we did a sweep around the bush. There was nobody there. We saw that a police vehicle had gone down to a meeting with its back full of dead bodies, and they told the villagers, look, if you join these Zanla guys, this is what we're going to do to you. We're going to kill you. Look at these bodies of all these guys we've killed. And then when the Zanla guys saw them going to the village, they simply ambushed the road. It was on a steep climb. So it was a very, very steep climb like that. And they went up this steep incline. They were going very slowly. They were ambushed. Then the 2 police guys in the vehicle were shot dead. Both of them were shot through the left lung, right lung, left lung, right lung. The lungs collapsed. They couldn't breathe. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't return fire. And then one guy tried to get out of the vehicle, and his feet were in the vehicle, his head out of the vehicle. And one of the Zanlas came up to him, gave him a coup de grace, and shot him dead. And then 10 minutes later, I arrived. They were not there. They'd gone. There are very few places in the vehicle where the vehicle was shot up. The Land Rover's got aluminium sides, so the bullets went through the aluminium sides like butter. Went through both guys. They couldn't breathe. They couldn't move, and they were shot dead. And we noticed some armor-piercing AK-47 bullets in the engine, so those guys had no chance. And then later on, the army arrived, followed up, but by this time it was pretty late. Nighttime fell, so they failed to catch these guys. So it was just telling me that the area was very hot, very dangerous, and I'd better wake up. So for the rest of that call out, we were on high alert. Yeah, there was another incident where the guards came to me one day and they said they can see a guy walking with an AK-47 about 250 meters away. And this guy was totally unaware that there was a strong point there filled with soldiers. And so I looked at him down my rifle, through my sights, and we didn't know. I asked myself, why would a Zanla combatant be on his own? And then I thought to myself, why would the Sulu Scouts be on their own? So I got the guys to radio to the base and ask if there was any soldiers in the area. And it took about 15 minutes. They came back and said, no, there's no soldiers in the area. But by this time, the guy had gone. And so I was saved from shooting somebody dead. Because